Welcome back, everyone, to First on Fraud and part two of our riveting conversation with retired FBI Special Agent Keith Gibbons. In this episode, we are delving into who the criminals are behind the fraud. Keith, where we left off was with a true or false question, or you know what? It may be like a truth or dare. I don't know. But the question is this: true or false? Cyber criminals can be nation state actors.
That's a trick question, Sarah. I'd love to say true, but I'd have to answer that for the most part, the answer is most definitely false. Now, the reason why I suggested that I'd love to say true is because what we have is criminal organizations that are operating with the blessing or sanction, if you will, of various nation states, but they don't actually belong to the government. So we have criminal enterprises that are separate entities that operate with the blessing of government. That's what we've seen writ large from the organizations that commit fraud as a business, but we haven't seen any indications that nation state actors are directly committing fraud.
That foreign government may not be paying them, but they also may not be taking any actions to shut it down. Is that kind of what you're saying, Keith?
That's a great way of putting it, Matt. Just think of an organization that's committing a crime that's on the books, but the government isn't necessarily doing anything about it.
There's these really sophisticated hackers and cyber criminals out there, and we've seen news reports about criminal professional groups that are set up just like companies with office buildings, HR departments, training manuals, and people clock in to their workday just to go in and scam all day. What can you tell us about those type of high level organizations of fraud?
Well, in short, fraud has been professionalized. At $16.6 billion a year in successful money grabs, it's certainly created enough resources to build an entire industry beyond ripping people off.
Well, that's not just our country. They're doing it around the world, right? We're not just it. We're not the only targets.
That's correct. In fact, the IC3, or Internet Crime Complaint Center, receives thousands of complaints every year from most of the other countries in the world. My recollection is at least 100 other countries every year would make complaints to the Internet Crime Complaint Center.
Interesting. It kind of blows your mind that these operations, like companies, exist out there and they're operating. So how are they allowed to operate? Or why are they allowed to operate?
Well, as we've discussed already, fraud is big business. With over $16 billion in receipts, the fraud industry is in a position to donate funds to political campaigns, pay bribes, or ingratiate themselves with foreign officials so that they have impunity when they operate.
So we know from our fraud experiences, it's not always organized at this high level of a scale, and that there's, other types of criminals that are out there perpetrating real estate fraud. What can you tell us about other types of fraudsters out there besides this really high level?
Great question. Well, the profile of a fraudster, as you can imagine, is as varied as the profile would be for any other industry. You're going to have some large fraud organizations where you even have people specialize. Some people specialize in creating phishing emails that are designed to fool people into clicking on links that compromise their devices. Some fraudsters and organizations have people that are designed to be expert at making phone calls. They use scripts where they call people who are unsuspecting victims. Some of the people in those organizations specialize in even creating the scripts and designing scripts that are designed to be particularly successful with elderly people, for example. That's the design of your larger fraud organization. But it doesn't mean that the people who commit fraud are going to go to fraud you, if you will, and then put a resume forth and apply for a job at one of these large fraud organizations, they may actually just be individual opportunists. Sometimes those opportunists are insiders, like real estate brokers that see an opportunity to take advantage of an unwitting victim, or it might be someone that's a mortgage lender who finds an opportunity where a loan is going through where they think they can commit fraud because they just unscrupulous. They don't want to play by the rules.
Yeah, I know this from working with other law enforcement, that sometimes these insiders are the ones that have that, one, access to people's personal information, two, know that an opportunity exists. So if it's somebody working in a nursing home, that they know you've got a person who has just left a home that is, not abandoned, but there's nobody living in it. Um, or you got, a notary who doesn't mind compromising and using their notary to falsify deeds or things like that. And always, for these type of insiders or accomplices, what's their motivation to work with these fraudsters?
The bottom line is money. There's something about their DNA where getting some money that they didn't earn is okay with them, and it's obviously it's a little bit criminal in nature, and they see an opportunity for a quick buck. They see it because they're uniquely positioned based on their knowledge in the industry, and sadly they take advantage of it.
So reality check us here on this. There's a lot of fraud happening all over the place, all over the world, and it's coming from everywhere. Do people get caught and do they get prosecuted? What are your thoughts on that?
So, Sarah, again, great question. I get that question all the time. I am happy to give the answer yes. I had some cases that I worked where we caught people that committed fraud. In one instance, there was a real estate agent that fit exactly that profile that I described to you. The agent took advantage of unsuspecting homeowners and basically sold the house right out from under them, and collected the profits and basically ran away with it. But obviously that fell apart when the owners of the home realized that their house was sold, and ultimately they were able to trace the transaction back to the real estate broker.
And that's why you should always report fraud to the FBI, because that's a fantastic story. If someone thinks that they have been a victim of fraud, what steps should they take?
Well, the first thing they should do is attempt to undo the fraud. If it's a fraud that's occurred fairly recently, I would encourage an individual and empower them to contact their own financial institution, tell the financial institution that there was fraud associated with the transaction, and ask the financial institution to claw the funds back, get that money back, or at a minimum, freeze the funds until an investigation can be done. The second thing I would tell people to do is report that fraud to the authorities, whether it be state, local, or obviously even to the FBI.
So if you report through the IC3 website, can you still report to your local FBI office?
Yes, I would encourage people to report both to the local field office and to the Internet Crime Complaint Center, or IC3, as we've been calling it. When they report to the local office, the investigators in that area may be able to take action if it's been a local crime. When they report it to the Internet Crime Complaint Center nationally, the IC3 center has additional resources that may facilitate asset recovery, so it makes it worth it to report in both locations. Further, the Internet Crime Complaint Center is able to capture that data, and then, of course, like the information that we're providing to everybody in our podcast today, they collate it so that we get an idea of where the bad guys are going to try to commit fraud and how they're doing it, and we're able to help people be more informed as to what techniques the bad guys are using that are successful.
Well, thank you. This has absolutely been incredibly enlightening, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And I'm going to do one last thing. Do you have any FBI insider tips that you want to share with our audience to help keep them safer from fraud?
As a matter of fact, I do. So, obviously, in my 30 years of investigating, I've had to deal with a lot of crime and a lot of crisis and critical situations. So the first thing that I want to tell people to do so they can quote unquote be like the FBI, is remain calm and act quickly. So that's number one.
Excellent.
Remain calm and act quickly. Another way of saying that is remain calm and take action. A lot of times when people are defrauded, they know it's occurred, and then immediately they freeze up. I don't know what to do. They panic, and they just hope, oh, well, it'll just go away. Maybe, it's not really happening. If I just ignore it, it'll sweep it under the rug and go away. So remain calm and take action. The second tip is understand the facts of the situation. In order to be able to undo the fraud, you have to understand the fraud. So did I get an email where I sent money to the wrong place? What bank did I use? Who did I get that email from? Having all of these facts will help you explain to someone else who may be in a position to help you how to undo that fraud. Obviously, it makes sense when you call the bank that you can say to them, hey, this transaction for $100,000 was committed based on fraudulent information. So please help me undo that. Certainly, if you know the amount of fraud, that's going to be helpful. So you want to have a good understanding of the facts so that you can relate that to a bank or to the FBI or other law enforcement so they can help you undo the crime. The last thing I would say is basically the first thing I said. So I want to leave everybody with this last tip, and it is empower yourself. One of the things that I learned when I became an FBI agent is the best person to solve your problem is you.
That's good. That's very good.
If you have a fraud occur, you're going to be your best champion. You're going to be the one who knows the most information about the fraud, and you're going to be the one who's best able to provide information that can be used in successfully undoing that fraud. Be your own advocate. Attempt to undo the fraud yourself. Feel empowered. You can do it. I know I've talked to a lot of victims who followed that very guidance that I'm giving you now, and they had a successful resolution where they were able to recover their funds.
Well, that is absolute perfect advice to end on. Huge thank you. Everyone, thank you for joining us with our retired special agent from the FBI, Keith Givens, for joining us on the deeper insights on the FBI's 2024 IC3 report. If you enjoyed this episode, follow First on Fraud wherever you listen to podcasts. And until next time, keep your deals legit, your tech secure, and your money safe, because in real estate, the only thing worse than a bad location is a fake one. See you next time. This episode is copyright 2025 by First American Financial Corporation, all rights reserved.